you're talking about, I guess it seems to me what you're trying to accomplish is trying to get us to appreciate how we got here. And when I say here, to the good things that we have and how we will lose them if we don't take those roots seriously.
Yes. I mean, just taking liberty, this is an American myth that democracy came from Greece.
You're speaking to a Greek, but I will agree with you because I happen to know that you're right.
Yeah. Well, I have 3 chapters in this book on politics. And the myth was started in Columbia University, went to Chicago University. Will Durant, who used to give a Monday night lecture in Presbyterian Church across the street from Columbia University, and published his lectures as Story of Civilization and Story of Philosophy.
Will and Ariel Durant, very famous work.
So they were the ones who promoted the myth, which was manufactured in America, that democracy came from Greece. The reality is that the greatest of Greek thinkers, Plato, Aristotle, had condemned democracy as the worst of all political systems. What Greece exported...
Well, Plato could be wrong, you know.
Yes.
Just because he's Greek. I mean, most Greeks are right about everything, but Plato could have been wrong. I still think there's a case to be made that democracy came from Greece. There's a case to be made, but it's a very limited version of democracy. It didn't last very long.
No, actually, there is no such case to be made.
Oh, yes, there is. Hey, this is my show. No, so I'm actually very curious to hear your point of view on this, in all seriousness, because this is very important. So I joke around, but make the case, because I want to hear this.
David Gress, a historian from Scandinavian American historian, he wrote a book called From Plato to NATO, and he exploded the myth. Democracy, the modern democracy, developed out in Scotland first with the Scottish reformers.
John Knox,
Andrew Melville, etc. Knox kept saying that he's building the New Jerusalem. He is building the kingdom of God. And there were so many imperfections that it became a little embarrassing for the second, third generation to say that they had built New Jerusalem in Scotland. So one of his followers, who were actually older than him, George Buchanan, he coined the phrase popular sovereignty, the kingship of all believers, which is what inspired American Constitution, we the people constitute ourselves. So this idea of popular democracy came from the Bible's teaching of kingship of all believers, that Jesus shed his blood to purchase slaves of Satan, to make them sons and daughters, kings. You inherit your father's kingdom. So the third generation of the Scottish Reformation, which had merged into Scottish Enlightenment, and they were all Christians, they were the ones who were unwilling to say that this is New Jerusalem. They called it democracy. Everybody in Europe accepted the term democracy, including the Christians, because it was embarrassing to call it New Jerusalem. But Europeans knew that this had come, the democracy, the freedom had come from the Bible, not from Greece.